So this section is 2.5 multiplying integers. So the first thing we have here is multiplying two integers when they have different signs. Okay, so if we take two integers and multiply them and they have different signs, our answer is always going to be a negative answer. Okay, so some examples here. If we go a positive 3 times a negative 2, our answer is going to come out to be negative 6. If we do a negative 3 times a positive 2, our answer is also negative 6. Okay, so different signs, a positive times a negative or a negative times a positive, always kicks out a negative answer. Okay, so what you do here is you just multiply your numbers, so 4 times 3, 12. Then we have different signs, so a positive times a negative, so that always kicks out a negative answer. So our answer would be negative 12. Okay, same thing with the next one here for B. We got negative 2 times 7. Well, we take 2 times 7, get 14. Then a negative times a positive, different signs, so it would be a negative answer. Okay, on page 75, try out A through C, and then I will write the answers in for you. So 75, let's flip to it. So A should be negative 30, B should be negative 49, and C should be negative 45. Okay? Now the next thing here is when we're multiplying two integers and they have the same sign. Okay, so when they have the same sign, our answer is always going to be positive no matter what. Okay, so two integers multiplied, same sign, answer's positive. Okay, so example here, positive times positive, so 2 times 3, we kick out a positive, 6. And then negative 2 times a negative 3, negative times negative gives us a positive number. Okay, so that's also positive 6. So our examples here, for A we've got 10 times 4. Well, those are both positive, so same sign, so we just multiply them. So 10 times 4 is 40, and then they have the same sign, so it's positive. Okay, next one here we've got negative 8 times negative 6. Well, it's negative times a negative, so that means our answer is going to be positive, and 8 times 6 is 48, so positive 48. Okay, on page 76, try out D through F, and then I'll get you guys the answers. So for D, they got 99. For E, they got 42. And then for F, they got 80. Okay, so the next thing here, this is a just a chart you can use, or a picture, however you want to call it. But you can use this if you have a hard time remembering if your sign is positive or negative. So basically how it works is you cover up the things you've got. So like say we had like a positive 3 times a negative 2. Well, what we would do, since we have a negative and a positive, we would cover those up, and then our answer we kick out is a negative answer, so that would be negative 6. Now it works the same way, so like if you had a positive 5, or let's go a negative 5 times a negative 4, well both of those are negative, so we cover up the two negatives, and our answer is going to be positive 20. Okay, so that's just one tool you can use. Some people like it, some people don't. If you do like it, you just cover up what you've got, and then whatever's left is your answer, but you don't have to use that by any means. Okay, so the next thing here, for example 3, we're going to do where we're multiplying more than two integers. Okay, so what I do for these is I go, okay, I know how to multiply two integers, so let's just do that. So if I take two integers here, so like 7 and negative 3, and I multiply those together. Well, I know 7 times 3 is 21, and I know a positive times a negative is a negative. Then I just drop down the one I haven't done yet, so drop down, multiply by 6, and then I would multiply those two numbers out, so 21 times 6 would be 126, and then if I do a negative times a negative, that's going to be a positive answer, or just positive 126. Okay, if you needed to multiply that off to the side, so like 21 times 6, you would take the 1 times the 6, you get 6, and then the 6 times the 2, and get 12, so 126. Okay, same thing works if we have 4, so I just attack 2 at a time. So I would go and do 4 times negative 5. Sorry about that. So I would do 4 times negative 5, which would be negative 20, so positive times a negative. Then I would do 12 times negative 5, which would be negative times a negative, which would give me a positive, and then 12 times 5 is 60. And then now I'm down to, instead of 4, now I'm down to 2 things I need to multiply. So then I would multiply those 2 things. So then I would go negative 20 times 60. So I would think of this like, if I think of it as 2 times 6, well that's 12. And then it's a tens position, so add 2 zeros there. Okay, and then I took a negative times a positive, so that would be a negative 1,200. Okay. So you guys try out on page 76, G through I, and then I'll get you the answers. So G should be 24, H should be negative 36, and I should be 30. Okay, so anytime you got more than 2, pick out 2, attack those, and then drop down whatever you got left, and then just keep multiplying until you're down to your final answer. Okay, example 4 here, we're still doing multiplying. This time we just have to do a little bit more where we have to plug in. So what we've got here is we've got 4 times A times B. We know our A is negative 3, and we know our B is negative 5. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go 4, and then instead of putting the A, we're going to put a negative 3, so 4 times negative 3. And then instead of putting the B, we're going to put a negative 5. Okay, then I just attack this 2 at a time, so I'm going to do the 4 times the negative 3, so if I do 4 times negative 3, positive times a negative, negative answer, 4 times 3, 12, then I drop down my multiply by negative 5, then I would take 12 times 5 and get 60, and then a negative times a negative would give me a positive, so positive 60 would be my answer there. Okay, next one here, for example 5, they just want us to simplify this down. So we have variables again, but we don't know what those variables are equal to, so we just keep them in our problem. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my numbers, so since it's all multiplying here, I can kind of change it around a little bit. So if I take my numbers and multiply those, so 4 and the negative 7, that would come out to be negative 28, because positive times negative gives me a negative answer because they're different signs. Then for my variables, I just take and multiply those as well. So I just do m times n. Okay, and that's my answer. I don't have to go any further than that because I don't know what my m and n are equal to. So I just keep it as negative 28 mn. Okay, so on page 77, you guys try out J through K. So J, when it's solved out, should be 35. And K, when it's solved out, should be negative 36Z. Okay? Okay, so that's your book page assignment there, page 78, 14 to 46 even. Make sure when you're doing these that you try these without a calculator, because when you take your test on this, you won't have a calculator to use.